everyone, this is Josh Alpern. I'm the Vice President of the Domain Expert Group at Informatica. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how data cataloging drives the analytics journey to the cloud. So before I really dive into the content about data cataloging, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about what we see our customers doing. So they talk to us about making big investments in things like cloud data warehouses and cloud data lakes. But really what they're doing from a business point of view is building what we tend to call these data factories. If you think about a traditional factory that takes a lot of different input and produces various goods and products, this is exactly what a data factory is, except the inputs are all data and the outputs are insights about the business. So cataloging is extremely central to this vision of building a data factory. Why is it so important? Well, number one, if you want to build more data products, in other words, if you want to have more insights about your business, you're going to need scale to do that. The more data you have, the more insights you want to generate, and the faster you want to generate those insights, the more automation you're going to need. And cataloging, as we're going to see, provides a lot of automation. And most importantly, all of this data that's being fed into the factory is being done so for one reason, and really one reason only, and that's for people to use this data in all of these various analytics projects that are taking place. And so you need that kind of adoption amongst all of these data consumers, as we call them, who are going to be interacting and using this data as part of all of these analytics projects. So data cataloging, in some ways, you can say, is the foundation of this data factory vision. Now, what you're looking at here is a standard reference architecture for the cloud with Informatica. And you can see that there are a variety of steps, data cataloging down there at the bottom with these things called discovery, lineage, and glossary. And we're going to dive into that in a lot more detail in just a few moments. But you also see that there are other steps here like data ingestion, data integration, data quality, and data provisioning, as well as stream processing. We're not going to spend very much time today talking about these other steps, but I am going to come back to them because they are very important in the overall vision of these data factories, as we call them. And they are also very importantly directly related to cataloging. Now, in these analytics projects that leverage these data factories that our customers are building, one of the things that we notice across all of them, regardless of what industry it is, what size of the company or organization it is, and really aside from what technologies they're using, is that there is a very wide variety of users that are interacting with the data, that are looking to use data. We have a lot of technical users like architects and data engineers. We have people that are focused on quality and data privacy. We also are seeing increasing numbers of what we tend to call citizen consumers. This just means that these are people who have day jobs, so to speak. They do lots of different things that occupy the majority of their time. But more and more, they are looking to analytics to supplement and augment what they do in their day jobs, so to speak. Then there are people like data scientists who spend the majority of their time using data in new and creative ways. And then there are also people like data stewards and people in a data governance office who are focused on the data in terms of understanding all of the different policies and procedures and processes that govern that data and understanding how data is being used throughout the organization, and to make sure that it's aligning with the business outcomes of the organization. Now, what's really important for everybody to understand is that through the usage across all of these different personas, as we call them, of the data, that their usage of that data is going to be driven by cataloging. They're not necessarily going to be interacting directly with a catalog, but at the end of the day, the foundation of their experience that is probably going to be very specific to their persona, whether it's very technical or whether it's very business oriented or whether it's very data governance oriented, at the foundation is going to be driven by a catalog. And we see this across virtually every type of cloud modernization project to build these data factories in these new cloud ecosystems that everybody is so focused on. One thing that you really should understand about this is that in order to get the scale across the amount of data that we're talking about and the variety of user experiences that we're talking about and the sheer amount of usage of this data, cataloging really, really requires a tremendous amount of automation that's powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Without it, it's just simply not, it's not scalable, and it's not sufficient in today's modern data factory environment. So what I want to do now is kind of dive into some key capabilities of data cataloging that are really essential to this data factory vision. Now, suffice it to say here that data cataloging provides all different types of capabilities, a very, very wide range of capabilities. And so in the context of today's session, I'm really just picking out 4 things that I feel are really, really critical and top of mind for our customers nowadays. So the first capability that I want to talk to you about is what we call data lineage. And data lineage is really all about understanding and visualizing how data moves and changes in your cloud ecosystem. So it's helpful to look at data lineage from 2 different perspectives, both the business perspective and the technical perspective. From a business point of view, really what we're talking about is the ability to trace data from its source to its destination, covering the entire life cycle of the data. And it's really important to understand that this doesn't just include how the data is moving from one place to another, but just as importantly, how that data is changing as it moves along in its journey. And no matter what type of business initiative you're looking at nowadays, because they're all more or less data-driven, lineage is going to be not just a requirement, but a critical requirement. So whether it's analytics, which is of course what we're talking about here today, but in addition to that, data quality initiatives, data governance programs, if you have to comply with any regulations or laws, depending on what jurisdiction you're operating in, and also from a data privacy and data security perspective, lineage is a requirement for all of these different initiatives. The beauty of being able to do this at a foundational data cataloging level is that once you understand the lineage for your data, you're going to be able to leverage that across all of these different initiatives at the same time. Now, from a technical perspective, lineage is just as important. There's this area that's rapidly emerging nowadays called Devops. This stands for Development Operations. And this really involves all of the systems and procedures and policies and assets that are put in place to help companies develop software. Change management and impact analysis across that environment is part and parcel of a DevOps initiative. Also, operational efficiency. This is the traditional goal of eliminating data proliferation, right? Eliminating the possibility that the same data exists in multiple locations. Why? Because that replication, that duplication of data creates problems. Data is in silos. It's separated from each other. It's separated across different groups, and that creates waste and inefficiency in organizations. So the ability to reduce cost that's associated with that waste and that inefficiency is a key driver for data lineage, because you can see not only exactly where the data is across your organization, but how it's moving from one place to another. And for example, if the data is not making it to a destination that it should be at, or if the data is simultaneously going to 2 different places unnecessarily, you can get ahead of that problem very, very quickly and fix it. Also, when we talk to customers about data warehouse and application modernization, having a complete understanding of the data landscape to enable that application modernization and that migration to the cloud is absolutely essential. Being able to figure out and have a very, very clear picture of what data you have on premise so that you know what data you want to bring to the cloud. And then after the fact, understanding what data you have brought to the cloud and how it moved from on-premise to the cloud and whether or not it changed along that journey is really, really critical. And in a very, very current trend, what we're seeing more and more of our customers explore and pursue is what's called explainable AI. Now, I already told you a few moments ago that Informatica's data catalog is powered by a high degree of automation that is supported by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Well, our customers are pursuing their own artificial intelligence projects, and basically they're developing their own algorithms to rapidly sort through huge volumes of data to uncover new, previously undiscovered insights about their data. Very often nowadays, these projects are referred to as explainable artificial intelligence, or XAI for short. And that just really simply means artificial intelligence that is readily understood by human beings, not some technical gobbledygook that comes out of machine learning, let's say, that's really only understandable if you're a computer. The key point here is that these artificial intelligence algorithms and programs that our customers are developing are extremely sophisticated. They can do things that no number of human beings can do. However, they are only as smart as the data that you feed them. And having a data catalog that provides very clear, easily understandable lineage information is absolutely essential to making these artificial intelligence projects successful. Now, when we talk to our customers about lineage, aside from all of the technical and functional capabilities that lineage provides, it's very, very clear why lineage is important to them. Number one, it's all about usage. Remember that when we talk about analytics, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is people using data to discover things about their business that they didn't previously know. It's all about the usage of the data. And lineage is absolutely key for customers to ensure that as many of their data consumers are using their data in the most efficient, best way possible. Very, very importantly, in addition to the usage of the data, is trust. Data consumers are not going to use data unless they trust that data. And guess what? That means that they need to understand where that data came from, who touched it along the way, and how that data changed before they trust it. Otherwise, they're just simply not going to use it. If you can't establish that trust amongst your data consumers about your data, then your analytics project in and of itself is going to get off to a very, very bad start. And certainly from a regulatory and compliance point of view, having that visibility into the lineage of the data is absolutely critical. Now, the next capability that I want to talk to you about is what we at Informatica call data domains. Data domains, as you're going to see in a second, is all about taking technical data assets and turning them into something that is meaningful from a business point of view. So let's take a look at a very quick example. This is very, very simple because this is just a spreadsheet or an excerpt from a spreadsheet. And you can see that there are a number of fields here. And what I just want to point out is that amongst all of this information spread across all of these fields or columns of data, you can see things like streets and cities and states and zip codes, and those all roll up into an address. You can see things like first names and last names that roll up into a customer name, and you see all different kinds of dates, products and amounts, and so on and so forth. The ability to take these disparate things and assemble them together into things like an address or a customer or a product, and then take those things in turn and roll them up into something that's called an order, that's really, really important, because the order is the thing that's important to the business, not field 4 combined with field 6 combined with field 8. Those are technical terms that the business is not necessarily going to understand. People that are interacting with data would prefer to interact with things like orders and customers and products and addresses rather than field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the ability to do this is really critical. What's really, really important is the ability to do this with an extremely high degree of automation without having to have a human being sit down at a spreadsheet and label these fields or columns according to their business terms. So at Informatica, we call these data domains, and we talk about advanced domain and entity discovery. And effectively what this means is, again, using the catalog to sort through and scan through the data and automatically, with a high degree of precision, find all of these disparate data elements and combine them into things that are meaningful from a business point of view. Why is this important? Well, it's going to improve the usage of the data by all of your data consumers. Again, data consumers would much rather interact with things that they're familiar with and terms that they're familiar with rather than raw technical data assets. In addition to that, it also enables the automated discovery of data across the entire enterprise. Once you understand the data domain for one particular thing, for example, an order, it's going to make it much easier and faster for you to discover orders in other places throughout the enterprise, throughout the organization. Also, think about the last thing we talked about, data lineage. Well, now combine the concept of a data domain with data lineage, and you can understand now that not just data is flowing from point A to point B to point C, but more specifically and more usefully, you can understand that order information is flowing from point A to point B to point C. And furthermore, having data domains really facilitates and speeds up the process of data classification, which from a governance and a compliance point of view is absolutely critical. At Informatica, we use our own embedded artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate this process across huge volumes of data and to do that with a high degree of precision. That's going to enable you to use your data much, much more faster in a much more accurate way and at a much higher scale than you're currently able to do without it. So the third capability of cataloging that I want to talk about is the ability to integrate with other areas of a cloud analytics ecosystem. So for a moment, I just want to very quickly go back to that reference architecture that we talked about at the beginning of today's session. And again, we see data cataloging kind of as the foundation at the bottom and enabling things like discovery and lineage and including a glossary of terms, which is another key capability, but we're not diving into here today. But throughout the rest of the reference architecture, you see things like ingesting data, data integration and data quality and data provisioning, as well as stream processing of data. Well, all of these things are absolutely critical. And I guarantee you that in your analytics projects in the cloud, there is all of these different things in one form or another. And the really, really critical aspect here that I want to focus on is not just each one of these in and of themselves and the importance of each one, but the ability for all of these things to talk to each other, so to speak, for everything that you learn with your catalog to be available, for example, to any data ingestion or data integration or data quality that you might be doing. Remember, at the end of the day, that this is all about putting data in the hands of data consumers, of users, so that they can engage in these analytics projects to understand and discover new things about the business and the enterprise. Well, the easier that you can do that, the more effective those users are going to be. And in order to go through all of these steps to get the data from the beginning into the hands of those users, all of these different things need to be connected. Now, from a cataloging perspective, what this means, just for example, is that you want to give people the ability to go into a catalog, search for data, to find that data very quickly and easily, but then also use that data directly. It's not going to do anybody any good if they can find the data easily in the catalog and they can see the data in the catalog, but then if they actually want to use it, they need to figure out how to go actually get their hands on it. So you want to give them, for example, the ability to provision data directly into their workspace, directly out of the catalog or directly from the catalog when they find it there. For example, a data engineer who's building a new data pipeline in a cloud-based data lake for an analytics project will search for all different types of data to use in that data lake and to mash that data up with other sets of data, to combine it into a new set of data, and so on and so forth, and apply all different types of transformations to that data. Well, when that data engineer goes into the catalog and searches thousands upon thousands of data assets to find the one that she really, really wants to use, you want to make it extremely easy for that data engineer to put that data into her workspace so she can start working with it directly. You don't want to cause any waste or efficiency or extra steps by requiring her to go out to some other database or some other tool, or have to go to some other person to get that data for her so that she can use it. So that integration between the catalog and all of these different other steps in a cloud analytics reference architecture are really, really important. And then the last capability that I want to talk about is what we call data asset analytics. Now, this is a little bit funny, because overall we're talking about the journey to the cloud and analytics projects in the cloud. This you almost might think of as analytics about the analytics. We're talking about being able to do analytics on the data that is being used in analytics projects. So what do I mean by that? Well, just like you have business intelligence reports for your enterprise and for your organization to show you key metrics and key indicators about what your company or what your organization is doing and how you're performing and what's happening all throughout the business at various stages, you need that same type of visibility about your data. Think of data as one of your most valuable assets. You can almost think of it as capital, the way we talk about money in the capital markets. You want to have visibility into absolutely everything that is being done with that data. Why do you want to have that visibility? Well, number one, if you understand how people are using data, you're going to be able to better drive adoption across your enterprise. And again, I keep coming back to this fundamental point that analytics projects at the end of the day are all about using data. So anything that you can do to drive adoption is going to help your overall analytics efforts. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, if you know that one group, let's say, is using a certain set of data in their analytics project, you might see that there is another group of people in a different group working on a different project that's doing something similar, but is not using the same set of data. You could then alert them to that fact and make that other set of data very quickly available to them through the data catalog. You can also very easily find the data that's most being used. If you find the data that's most popular and that's being used most effectively by your organization, again, you can make that very easily available to other people for potentially other use cases. You can also do the opposite, if you want to think of it that way, by identifying data assets that are underutilized, data that's out there that might be very valuable, that for whatever reason, people are not touching, that people are not using. And again, making them aware of that data, because even though they have access to the catalog, for whatever reason, maybe they're not seeing it, or they're not finding it, or they're just simply unaware of it. And at the end of the day, usage leads to more usage. The more people are going to use the data, the more usage you're going to see throughout your enterprise. And the same thing holds true for the catalog itself. The more usage that you get out of the catalog, you're going to see more usage through that catalog over time. So this is kind of a summary of everything that we covered today in terms of the four key areas of data cataloging. Remember, as I said, cataloging is the foundation of all of these data factory initiatives that we see across our customers, regardless of geography, regardless of industry, regardless of the size of the organization. Cataloging really is becoming a foundational cornerstone, if you will, of this concept of a data factory. It's not so much important to understand or to know what Informatica specifically calls these things: lineage, data domains, integration with ELT and ETL, or data asset analytics. I would encourage you to concentrate more on what those things are helping you accomplish and why they're important, understanding how data moves and changes in the cloud, the ability to transform all of your technical data assets into meaningful business information, integrating a catalog with all of the other different components of your cloud analytics reference architecture, and understand how data is being used. That's really what you're trying to achieve, and just understand that these things are part and parcel of Informatica's data catalog, along with all of the other things that we didn't have a chance to dive into here today. In addition to that, I just want to close with a final thought about the relationship between analytics and governance. Now, analytics is typically thought of as one type of project, and data governance is typically thought of as another kind of initiative. But what we're seeing more and more, to the point that it's almost becoming universal, is that these two things, analytics and governance, are inextricably linked together. Analytics drives the need to have a data governance program, to have a solid data governance program. Why? Because analytics is all about more users using more data for more things. And all of that usage across all of those users really introduces the need to understand exactly what's going on throughout the organization to make sure that the right people are using the right data for the right reasons. But at the same time, governance itself is driving analytics, and it enables analytics. Governance enables analytics to really scale out across all of those different users, and to really enable what some of you may have heard called data democratization, the use across that wider range of users for a wider range of purposes. And these two things, therefore, are really, as I said, inextricably linked together. The point that I want to leave you with is that when you get down to a technology level, when you look at how these two things are actually related and what the touch point is between them, you're going to see that it is very clearly a data catalog. The data catalog enables users in analytics projects to quickly find and use the data that they want. While from a governance point of view, the data catalog serves as a foundation for all of those data stewards and data governance officers to understand exactly how data is being used and whether or not the organization is using the right data for the right purposes in the right way. So these two things really play off of each other, and cataloging, if you want to think of it this way, is the linchpin between the two. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and thank you for your time. Have a good day.